Can't change the video, though. But it's a very small point. No one even noticed it in the comments, but I did. Viral video, resistance is victory. It's up at Infowars.com. The tide is turning. The video's there for all the radio listeners, but I'm going to premiere the audio and video here coming up at the bottom of the hour. And there's now been a new Supreme Court ruling. Supreme Court rules Congress can recopyright public domain works. Congress may take books, musical compositions, and other works out of the public domain where they can be freely used and adapted and grant them copyright status. So I guess they're saying a King James Bible that's 600 years old or whatever, 550. I've been hearing about this case. I guess they did it. So I guess they can take Oliver Twist, or they can take Tale of Two Cities, stuff that's been, or I guess they can take The Little Mermaid, Hans Christensen or whatever his name is, and I guess they can just recopyright it and give it to whoever they want. Unbelievable attack on the free flow of information. Because they always use this not to protect the copyright 100 years after somebody's dead. They do it to stifle information. That's what China and Russia is trying to pass censorship garbage. This stuff's happening worldwide, man. The crooks are the same everywhere. And they figure out the best trick to bamboozle somebody, and they use it, and it makes me want to throw up. All right, we've got Richard Stallman, free software icon, guru, whatever you want to call it, Obi-Wan Kenobi of free software movement. And we've got Ron Paul's brother coming up on the latest Iowa fraud, as they're saying, don't count the vote now, Ron Paul doesn't exist. And we've got Ron Paul fighting the NDAA secret arrest provisions with no media coverage of that. It's all coming up. Stay with us. Okay, my friends, we've got a real treat for you. They talk about the top 10 people out there in internet land and who've really changed, our perspective on so many things. It's Dr. Richard Stallman. He's a software developer and software freedom activist. He graduated from Harvard in '74 with a BA in physics and received many awards, doctorates, and professorships for extensive work. In January of '84, he resigned from MIT to start the GNU operating system, or GNU, meant to be entirely free software, and has been the project's leader ever since. Dr. Stallman also launched the free software movement in October of '85. He started the Free Software Foundation, and thank God, because nothing would work if we were running off Microsoft still. And I don't know anything about internet, I know that. And in 1999, Stallman called for development of free online encyclopedia through the means of inviting the public to contribute articles. So he was the progenitor of Wikipedia. During his college years, he also worked as a staff hacker at the MIT Artificial Intelligence Lab, learning operating system development by doing it. Stallman pioneered the concept of copy left and is the main author of the GNU General Public License, the most widely used free software license. This is why, since the mid-'90s, Stallman has spent most of his time in political advocacy for free software and spreading the ethical ideas of the movement, as well as campaigning against both software patents and dangerous extensions of copyright laws. That's why he's probably the best guest we can get on, to discuss Russia, China, the U.S. They're all using copyright and later admitting they're using it to shut down free speech. SOPA is just one manifestation of this, and this monster's receding for now, but is guaranteed to come back very soon, in fact, in a few weeks. Here's the Associated Press. Supreme Court rules Congress can recopyright public domain works that have been out for hundreds of years. This is amazing. So here to break down the different horrors of the expansion of copyright to where you can't even use words now, they're saying, is a professor and Dr. Stallman. Thank you for coming on with us, sir.
Hello.
Hello. Let's go over it. I mean, what do you make of what's happening right now?
Well, I haven't read any details about today's Supreme Court decision. I haven't seen that yet. But previously, other Supreme Court decisions said it was unconstitutional to recopyright anything that was in the public domain. But this is a very pro-business Supreme Court. We can't trust it to protect human rights. They're going to give those human rights to corporations and protect the rights of corporations, but not the rights of humans in any practical sense.
Yes, sir. What got you started, developing the ideas that have become the free software movement that you kicked off?
I lived in a free software community in the 1970s, although we didn't use that term. when I was working at the Artificial Intelligence Lab at MIT, it was part of a community where we shared the software that we developed. And all the software that we used was the software of the community, and we were happy to share it with anyone who was interested in it, and we hoped that if they improved it, they would share it back, and often they did. But this community died in the early 80s, leaving me face-to-face with the proprietary software world, which is the way everyone else was using software. And by comparison to the life of freedom that I was used to, proprietary software was ugly, morally ugly. So I balked at that. I said, I am not going to accept a life of proprietary software. I would be ashamed of my life if I did that. So I decided to build a new free software community, since the old one was based on software for obsolete computers. It was necessary to start again from scratch. So I launched that project, and now there are free operating systems. Now it's just barely possible to use computers and not be subjugated by software developers of non-free software.
But expanding that with just basic text copyright, take Righthaven, they've been absolutely destroyed in court. They sued a lot of people across the spectrum for even taking a paragraph in a comment board where it was clearly a third party that had even done it, and they were backed by the Associated Press and others. I mean, that is really creepy to have the Associated Press and others actually suing quadriplegics and community activist groups helping homeless people because they had one paragraph of their article and clearly were, discussing in many cases their own, they were in the news article, they were posting it on their blog about them for humanitarian discussion, couldn't get any more clear free speech, and they were being sued.
Well, they may, if they went to court, they might win, the defendants might win on the grounds of fair use. The problem is it's hard to tell in advance, and it costs you a lot of money to go to court and find out. So those people probably didn't have enough money to stand up for what are possibly their rights, plausibly their rights. But because of the way fair use is defined in copyright law, it's not a clear permission. It's a rather vaguely drawn defense against charges of copyright infringement.
Yeah, case by case. Shifting gears, overall, specifically on SOPA, is it heartening for you to see the big blackouts, to see...
It is. And what this means is that we can sometimes defeat the copyright lobby when it demands increased power. Of course, we haven't defeated them yet. We are at least coming close to defeating them, and maybe we'll defeat them. But everybody listening to this, you've got to phone your senators today because they're going to vote next week. So, but at least, even if we don't actually defeat them, we've mounted a campaign that will have come fairly close. This is the first time it's been such a fight. When the Digital Millennium Copyright Act was passed, the law that censors software that you can use to decode encrypted publications, that you can use to break digital handcuffs, that was passed in the House of Representatives without an explicit vote. It was considered totally uncontroversial. There were just a few of us saying that this is an injustice. And that's why digital restrictions management, DRM, is such a pain nowadays, because of that law that the copyright lobby purchased in 1998, which bans the software capable of breaking the digital handcuffs. So I am against anything that the copyright lobby wants until they start undoing some of the injustices they've already imposed on us.
Doctor, let me try to quantify that from my layman's perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I see as the injustice. they're talking about their rights as they attempt to put a preemptive, non-deliberative, no due process, guilty until proven guilty system.
Guilty until proven innocent, I think you meant.
But I was being sarcastic. I mean, you're guilty basically, period. Yeah, guilty until proven guilty. I was being sarcastic. But yeah, but I mean, you're guilty up front. And they're basically just gobbling up the internet, gobbling up what people have created, gobbling up everything like they're masters of the universe. And until they become reasonable, there's no point in even discussing anything with them because they're not giving anybody quarter.
I agree. But furthermore, the more subtle thing that they're doing is they're trying to focus attention on their problems as if their problems needed to be catered to while distracting you away from the problems they have already imposed on us. I hope we completely defeat SOPA, but don't forget that copyright law in the U.S. already gives them too much power. Of course, they're not satisfied. They always want more. That's what the 1% do to the 99%. But even if we stop them from getting more, that's not enough. We've got to aim for more than just preventing them from making it worse. We've got to undo some of the injustices they have already done to us. We have to put an end to the war on sharing, which is a cruel war that attacks all of us. Now, when I say sharing, I mean something specific. I mean non-commercial copying and redistribution of published works. Exact copies, that means, not modifications. That's a rather limited freedom, but that's the freedom we all must have so that the war on sharing ends and copyright ceases to be tyranny. Now, that means they've got to stop using digital handcuffs. Lots of products nowadays are designed with digital handcuffs. Every DVD player you can buy has digital handcuffs.
Oh, let me give people an example. I mean, I have a TV studio, I have a TV show, I make films. I buy prosumer and professional equipment, and half of our technical difficulties are with digital TVs, monitors, cameras, is having the right software keys, everything talking to each other plugged in. It has to authenticate that I'm allowed to run a video through it. It's all spying on me and screwing up my entire operation. My whole life is about complying with this stuff, and I bought it, and I'm in here using it to produce TV. And as the 80 inventors of the internet pointed out, this SOPA would cripple the internet by putting all these pre-restrictions on things.
Well, yes. The worst thing in SOPA is that it becomes easy to shut down any website where the public is posting things. It just takes an accusation that somebody posted something that was infringing copyright, and it becomes almost impossible for that site to keep operating. That's why Wikipedia decided to go black yesterday, because it would be impossible to operate something even vaguely like Wikipedia under the rules of SOPA. Now, after the show's over, I'd like you to tell me more about the precise details of your problems with these TV systems.